Hi, welcome back to The Distressed Princess. I'm Rhonda, and today is the second episode of the Halloween crafting series. Here's everything I'm making today, and I have to say I've gone completely batty over these crafts. For the first project, you will need one of the 8x10 canvases from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to do a reverse canvas effect, so that means that you'll need to cut the canvas away from the frame. Then peel off all that remaining canvas that's on the back with the staples, but you don't have to worry about removing the staples because they're going to be covered up. You really never know what that frame is going to look like when you take these canvases off of the dollar store ones. So this one was kind of rough and I decided to give it a nice sand. You'll also notice that the staples that will be on the front of this frame for us are kind of showing. So I'm going to mask them with some wood filler, and then when that's dry, I sand that down. And paint your frame with black paint. Once the frame is dry, then you can reattach the canvas to the back side. And you have a decision to make if you want to use the natural color or the white side of the canvas. And in this case, I went with the natural color side. Then trace out your frame onto the canvas. Then cut the canvas to fit on the back side of the frame. And try to cut on the inside of the lines that you traced because you don't want any of that canvas peeking out around the edges from behind. I used my heavy-duty stapler to reattach the canvas to the frame, but if you don't have one of those, you could certainly use hot glue. This is a picture of a bat that I printed out onto cardstock paper. I made him just the right size that would fit inside of the 8x10 frame. I think you have 6.5 inches across to work with to be inside of the frame, so I stayed on the safe side and made my bat 5.5 inches wide. The bat that I printed out and I just cut out is only a template. I'm using it to trace around onto some scrapbook paper and poster board with different patterns and colors. I made 3 and then I cut all 3 out. And this is how they are going to be arranged in the frame, but I thought just one more little detail would make this super awesome cool, and that would be to fold the wings in just a little bit, and that makes them a little bit more realistic.
Perfect.
Again, that candle smelled so good. Even my husband commented how good the house smelled when he came home. These candles are so amazingly scented. I know you're going to want to try them, so I'm leaving a link in my description box so that you can try them out for yourself. In this project, I'm going to make a homemade stamper, and I'm using a Dollar Tree bat cookie cutter to do it. You will also need a piece of floral foam that you can get at the Dollar Tree. You may have heard of people making stamps out of potatoes. Well, this is the same idea, only we're using floral foam. So you're going to push the cookie cutter down into the floral foam until there's not a whole lot left sticking up out of it. Then cut off any excess that you might have, and you can use that for your flowers later. Then you will cut down into the floral foam just a little bit so that you still are hitting that cookie cutter inside the floral foam. You don't want to cut so far into it that you cut behind the cookie cutter, because that's going to defeat your purpose. Then you'll start cutting down into the foam from the top in sections, and you can pull it away from the cookie cutter. Now it's safe to take your cookie cutter out, and you're left with what will be your stamp. And I'm going to use my bat stamp on this extra large placemat that I got from the Burlap Fabric Company. I'm sure you could probably use acrylic paint because that's supposed to be safe to use on fabric, but just to be sure, because I want this to last a long time, I went ahead and used my Tulip fabric paint. I used a small paintbrush to apply the paint to the bat. You'll notice that the bat already has paint on it, and that's because I had to test this theory just a couple of times before I went ahead to do the rest of this video and show you all how to do it. Thank goodness it worked though. And then just press your homemade stamper down onto your fabric with a little bit of pressure and raise it straight back up. So what do you think? I think it's a lot easier than doing it with a potato. If you have any places that didn't get enough paint, just go back in with your paintbrush. This would be so cute on Halloween pillows and table runners and napkins. I could think of 100 ways to use this stamp. For the next DIY, you will need some of the clip-on bats that you can get at the Dollar Tree, and you'll need some wooden beads. Then you'll need something to string your beads and bats on, and I'm using black yarn. And I'm using the trick with the piece of Scotch tape on the end that makes kind of like a shoelace, like the end of a shoelace, and it's easier to thread through your beads. When you have your garland about as long as you want it, or you run out of beads like I did, now it's time to put your bats in place. And I just sort of eyeballed about how many beads, and I separated and put my bat there, and then I went down the line like that. Tie a double knot on both ends to keep your beads in place. And then you can make a loop on each end for hanging. And this one too, with the wooden beads, I think would be really cute for farmhouse Halloween. In this project, I'm using a technique that I've used only one time before, and that is to transfer an image onto a canvas using Mod Podge. All you have to do is apply the Mod Podge all over the canvas, and then you put your printout print side down and you wait for it to dry. Once it's dry, then you'll remove the paper and the print will be left behind. So the first time that I tried this, it didn't work out spectacularly. I mean, it worked, but not perfectly. So I'm gonna see if I can do it better this time. Just remember that when you're printing out your image, if it has lettering on it, you will need to mirror your image so that when you put it print side down, then it will be face side up when it's done. When it's dry, you use water to remove the paper. So I have a spray bottle with water and I'm going to soak the paper, and then you're supposed to use your fingers and just kind of rub that paper in circles and it peels right off. So I got it where most of the paper was peeled off, and I wanted to dry it with a paper towel and kind of knock off all those little crusty paper pieces. And you'll see that I lost part of my word. I lost a chunk out of my bite on the bottom, but don't worry because I'm a crafter and a crafter is used to these things happening, so we're gonna fix it. The first thing I tried was just to patch it up with some paint. And although it may look like it on screen right now, the paint color I just could not get to match up very well. So I'm going to try something else later. Before I got my lettering all fixed up, I went around the edges of my canvas with some black paint and a chip brush. I wiped my paint back off that wasn't working for me, and now I'm going over the word with a black Sharpie. And I think that worked out a lot better. One day I'll perfect this method and I'll let you all know when I do. I think it might have something to do with the amount of drying time. In this one, I'm using a candle that I got from the Dollar Tree and some of the Halloween rings that you get at the Dollar Tree. They have different ones in the package, but today I'm only interested in the bats. You have to take some wire cutters or maybe even some scissors would work to cut the ring away from the bat. My plan was to hot glue these bats all around the top of that candle, and it seemed like it was going okay until I got to about the third bat, and then the first bat I glued on fell off, so I had to reevaluate. What I noticed was the little dollop of hot glue that I had used on the back of the bats made a perfect little platform to use to put some Fix-All adhesive and glue them on with that. Simple and cute. And for this one, I'm using this tinsel bat that came from the Dollar Tree, but I'm not real big on tinsel, so I'm going to redo him with some creepy cloth that also came from the Dollar Tree. I had unwound that tinsel all the way to the end of the one side when I realized that there's two pieces to the bat wings and they actually come apart. So if you'll just snap them apart, that tinsel will come out a lot easier. Once all the tinsel is removed, then I unrolled my creepy cloth, but I left it folded in half so that I had two layers to work with. Then I cut the double layer creepy cloth just the size for one bat wing so it would cover the front and wrap around a little in the back. I had a lot of excess cloth on the tip of the bat wing, so I cut that off. Then just snap the back piece right back into place. Repeat these same steps for the bat wing on the other side. Now we do some trimming on the bat. The little pegs that used to hold the tinsel in place, you're going to take your wire cutters and cut those off. I also cut off the plastic loop that used to be the hanger because I'm going to hang mine with a command strip. The last step is to glue down the loose cloth that's next to the body on the bat and just use hot glue. And he's ready to fly up on my wall. Now let's look back at all the batty Halloween decorations today. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, hit my face right here, and it'll take you to where you can subscribe. If you're wanting to see more DIYs, click the link to the next video. I'll see you next time. Bye.